Thanksgiving weekend, over smoke and paper plates, I heard it. Useless mom, dad, and the ask. Your pension share for holiday costs. I opened Audit Ledger 0.0, 72-hour clock. Then the misfire. An escrow payoff schedule hits my inbox. Cash out refi off a forged POA, my VA deposit already rerouted, grandson bragging about a $68,000 SUV from Pop's Army money. Fine. Slideshow, 4 minutes. Process server walks in on slide 3. Accounts freeze. Question is simple. Do I let them cash me out, or do I take everything back?
I'm Marshall Reyes, 62, retired NCO, and I keep score. Not of people, of paper. I open the ledger the way a prosecutor opens a box of exhibits, and I number each file, date stamp it, and tie it to proof. No nostalgia, no speeches, just what was asked, what I did, what it cost, and what it proves. Every entry is an action with a receipt. Every receipt is leverage waiting for the day it needs to be set on the table.
Case File 1. The co-signed business line for $25,000. Sacrifice. I walked into First Capital Bank with 2 years of W-2s, my DD-214, and 3 months of statements because the lender needs a veteran with stable income to get us over underwriting. At the desk, I pushed back the first draft that listed me as guarantor. I said I'd be a secondary signer for inventory only. Not for travel, not for dining, not for cash advances. The banker nodded. My boundary lived in black ink. Antagonist action. The second draft slid across with a sticky note. Just a small language adjustment so underwriting moves. And the guilt trip landed in the chair next to me. Don't you believe in us? After everything you've taught us about discipline? I initialed the revised clause after confirming the inventory-only list was attached as Exhibit B, audacity disguised as paperwork. Mistake noted.
Chain 1, they took the card and drew $4,916 at Coastal Resort and Conference, not listed under Exhibit B. I flagged the merchant with the bank. I requested invoices. I got supplier meeting by text. Chain 2, they pulled $2,380 at Jetstream Electronics, followed by $1,142 at Smokehouse Grill, and $600 in ATM cash across 2 days. I labeled the statement Variance, Non-Inventory, and emailed a PDF with the line items circled. Subject, Obligation Number 12, Unauthorized Spend Clarification. The reply, it all sorts itself next month. Chain 3, Day 30, the payment missed. A 30-day late posted to my file with a 62-point score drop. State Mutual sent a letter adjusting my auto premium plus $31 a month. I scanned the letter, appended it as Exhibit C4, and logged the incremental damage at $372 a year. Chain 4, Collections called. I sent an FDCPA validation letter via certified mail with a green card, demanding the signed instrument and accounting. They paused collection, pending investigation. The pause didn't unring the bell. The derogatory remained. Chain 5. I checked the county docket for any default judgment. None. Then opened a folder, First Capital, line, and dropped in the loan agreement, statements, my emails, and the insurance increase letter. Chain 6. I set calendar repeats to screenshot each monthly score so I could chart the slope and tie dollars to that slope. Tactical assessment. Pattern established. Promise, non-inventory spend, silence, my penalty. Escalation flagged. Case File 2. The rent-free stay and the utilities balloon. $5,012 over 4 months. Sacrifice. I offered the spare room until they got their feet under them and put the boundary in writing. Utilities are yours. Food is yours. 30 days to stabilize. They came in with 3 duffels and an apology. I logged key handoff time, meter readings, and a photo of the thermostat at 72. Antagonist action. We're barely making it. This week's check got held. Can you float power and water and we'll zell you Friday? Friday is the oldest lie in the book. Failed boundary. I paid just this cycle. Captured the web receipts and moved each PDF into a folder labeled Utilities, Guest Period. Chain 1. The power bill jumped from my winter average $118 to $463. Usage spikes from 0200 to 0500 visible in the green bars. I pulled the hourly CSV, printed 2 pages. circled the overnights, and tagged the file as Exhibit U1.
Chain 2, water sept from $34 to $157, with a notice about continuous use detected. I walked the house, shut valves, snapped the meter rolling at midnight, and found the backyard line filling an inflatable pool at 0100. I took photos, added timestamps. I drained it and put the hose in the garage. Chain 3, gas bill from $41 to $186. The Nest history showed heat max for 4-hour stretches. I locked the thermostat with a 4-digit PIN and exported the audit log to PDF. Exhibit U2. Chain 4, 2 streaming bundle upgrades hit my card through auto-signing on my TV. I revoked device access, printed the provider's device removed confirmations, and subtracted $58.98 per month from their "we don't use your streaming" claim. Chain 5. After non-payment of their agreed share, I delivered a written notice, amounts, dates, totals, and gave them until the 15th to reimburse. No Zelle Friday. Nothing. Chain 6. The tally at 4 months showed I paid $5,012 covering power, water, gas, internet, the streaming cleanups, and late fees. I prepared a simple demand letter stating amount due, 30-day window, and intent to pursue small claims. I mailed it certified and archived to the green card. Tactical assessment. Reliance documented. Every will handle it negated by meter data. Evidence layered for later use. Past pattern validated. Advance. Case File 3. The medical aid that wasn't medical. 3,104. Sacrifice. A text. Hit mid-appointment. ER copay. Urgent. Clinic wants $3,140 today, or treatment stops. And then a live handoff to billing. I verified the area code, took down the first and last name of the rep, asked for the tax ID, and paid by card with a demand for an itemized bill, boundary, CPT and ICD-10 codes afterward. No exceptions. Failed boundary. The receipt email carried the merchant descriptor, aesthetic dermatology and laser, MCC 8099, medical services MISC. The invoice described full face fractional resurfacing, prepaid package with no diagnosis code. Chain 1. I called the number on the receipt and asked for the superbill. They sent a cosmetic services brochure instead. I printed it and underlined non-covered elective treatment. One misrepresented, one misrepresented. We have the follows of GAST, not killing the order. I filed a card dispute under misrepresentation, attaching the text pleading ER copay, the invoice, and the brochure. I stated material discrepancy between stated purpose, emergency copay, and actual charge, cosmetic. The bank acknowledged. Provisional credit pending. Chain 3. I sent a demand for refund to the clinic via certified mail, citing state consumer law on deceptive practices, demanding reversal within 10 business days. The receptionist emailed, "Owner will review." On day 9, I received a partial refund receipt, $1,000, as a gesture. I refused partial. My dispute already in motion. Chain 4. I requested call detail logs from my phone carrier, showing the time-stamped transfer to the clinic, and recorded a follow-up call where staff admitted there was no ER copay and the appointment was elective. I transcribed the call, notarized the transcript, appended it to Exhibit M2. Chain 5. The card issuer closed the dispute in my favor, reversing $3,140. I moved the recovery into a separate account labeled Restitution Pending, and I wrote a memo that any subsequent repayment from family would route to that fund, not back to general spending. Chain 6. I filed a complaint with the State Medical Board about misrepresentation by staff. Tactical assessment, misdirection caught in the MCC and language, voice logs beat stories every time. A new variable, if they'll use ER as a lever, there's no ceiling to the ask. Case File 4. Tax, help, and the 2087 penalty. Sacrifice. I offered to review their return, not to sign or file. In March, we sat at my table. I walked through withholding and estimated payments and flagged a 1099 NEC they'd ignored. Antagonist action. We're slammed and the portal's confusing. Can we use your address again and your card for the filing fee? We'll reimburse Friday. Boundary. I won't be the responsible party. Don't list me for contact. Failed boundary.
My address and phone rolled forward because last year I'd helped from my computer. The software carried me over as contact. The e-file used my card. Chain 1. In June, an IRS CP-14 notice arrived addressed to them at my mailbox. Balance due plus penalty. I scanned the notice and logged the amount, penalty, and interest. Chain 2. Because the return used my address, and I'd been the contact on prior filings, collection calls hit my phone. I recorded each call, asked for the notice number, verified it matched CP-14, and wrote times and names in the call record annex. Chain 3. I paid $2,087 by EFTPS to stop the accrual after they texted, "We'll fix it next week," and "next week" screamed future interest. I saved the EFTPS confirmation and added the bank's ACH line from my statement. Chain 4. I prepared a reimbursement agreement that converted the payment into a notarized promissory note, due in 60 days, interest at the federal short-term rate. I sent it for signature through a simple e-sign service with audit trail enabled. They read it and never signed. Chain 5. I filed a change of address with the IRS linking their SSNs to their new address so the next round of notices would bypass me. Confirmation letter arrived. I scanned it. Exhibit T3. Chain 6. I scheduled a call with a tax clinic to confirm the CP-14 amounts and to ask whether my payment created any lien leverage. The clinic said no lien, but advised I keep the promissory note in communications for small claims. Tactical assessment. I shut off the bleed and turned a favor into a paper debt with a due date and a rate. Past pattern, Friday promises, validated and neutralized. Case File 5. Metals, borrowed, and the pawn ticket. Sacrifice. I released my bronze, star, and campaign ribbons for a school display with a written inventory and return date. I photographed each piece beside that day's newspaper and a ruler for scale, and wrote the shadow box's serial sticker into the inventory. Antagonist action. We'll keep them safe, the glass is scratched, we'll upgrade it, the kids will be proud. Boundary. 30 days. Signed, pickup date circled. My cell underlined. Failed boundary. Day 45. No return. The text came. The displays extended. The kids begged. Chain 1. Week 8. A friend sent a Facebook photo. The shadow box looked familiar behind a collector's shoulder. I zoomed. The crack in the mahogany matched mine. Chain 2. I pulled metadata from the image and scraped the comments. Someone wrote, "Great snag from Patriot Pawn," and another posted a partial ticket number. Chain 3. I called police non-emergency and filed a theft report, providing the inventory, photos, and the Facebook link. A detective took the case number and requested a statement. I sent the PDF within the hour. Chain 4. I contacted the pawn shop with the case number. They confirmed receiving a very similar set and faxed a copy of a pawn ticket showing a driver's license number I recognized. They put the item on hold pending investigation. Chain 5. I filed an NCIC pawn network query through the detective. 2 days later, I got a call. Hold extended. Retrieval pending proof of ownership. Chain 6. I assembled a chain of title packet. Award order copies, deployment records, photos, serial numbers, and walked it to the station. The detective said the hold would stick, and the DA might look at receiving stolen property. Tactical assessment. Respect sold for beer money isn't sentimental. It's an evidentiary package. I kept my voice even and added the case number to the binder spine. Mini twist. Their social media brag became my subpoena roadmap. Case File 6. Authorized user. Creep and 2,200 in flights. Sacrifice. I added an authorized user to my card for groceries during a tight month and put it in writing. Supermarket only. Receipt photos by midnight. Antagonist action. 2 airline tickets posted for $2,200 and a $350 resort hold. Descriptor read Air West 2XT class and Riverline Resort. No receipt photos arrived. Boundary. Groceries only. Remove the card from every travel wallet or I pull the AU. Failed boundary. The next morning, a rideshare app billed to that card at 0430 and a lounge fee at 0615. Vacation in progress. Chain 1. I called the issuer for merchant descriptors and ticket numbers. They confirmed both tickets were non-refundable, but provided record locators.
I wrote them down and asked for the AU removal script.
Chain 2. I removed the AU, asked for a replacement card with a new PAN, and demanded a letter stating AU removed, card reissued, with timestamp. It arrived by secure message in under an hour. I printed it for Exhibit B7. Chain 3. I called the airline, gave the record locators, and added a passive note to the PNR. Ticket purchased using card number X, card reissued due to unauthorized AU use. Not a block, but a breadcrumb. Chain 4. I filed a complaint to the airline and resort, attaching the AU removal letter and my groceries-only text. In response, the resort refunded the $350 hold when the card declined at check-in. Small win, documented. Chain 5. I placed fraud alerts at the 3 credit bureaus, not freezes yet, so any new user or account would ping me, confirmation emails printed and added to Identity tab. Chain 6. I updated my personal SOP, no authorized users, ever, and texted the policy screenshot to the family thread so there'd be no, "We didn't know."
You are timey true underleaded as divide for put together. These 6 files are dull on purpose. Dates, amounts, caller ID numbers, PDFs, screenshots, certified mail receipts, and a shape that repeats. Ask, guilt, promise, failure, excuse. With my cost quantified each time, I keep to one protocol. Act once, document, then stop until the next act is required. The binder sits where I can reach it fast. Tabs for utilities, banking, metals, tax, identity, comms, and QR codes link each exhibit to the cloud. I audit monthly and tag duplicates across categories. The same names show up, the same Fridays, the same emergency tone. Hindsight payoff. Every little favor I logged became a strand of rope. The pile wasn't clutter. It was a net I didn't yet know I'd need. I thought the drip would be the whole story, until Monday before Thanksgiving when an escrow officer misfired an email to me with a payoff schedule I'd never asked for. Cash out refi, forged authority, my house on the altar, and the pattern snapped into a new shape with a single subject line. That's where the ledger stops and the war starts. Word moves to evidence moves to action, and action moves to court. Next file opens with a name, a dollar figure, and an IP address. Ready? The point of no return just hit the inbox. For Thanksgiving, the inbox pings with a subject line that doesn't belong to me. Final payoff schedule, escrow packet enclosed. I click, and the PDF shows my address, my parcel number, and a cash-out refinance for $218,000. The signer of record is me, except the POA attached isn't mine. Different date format, wrong middle initial, witness lines filled with names I don't know. First reflex, save the email to a local folder. Then, right-click, Properties, copy the header data into a text file. The sending IP resolves to a title company 2 towns over. A call gets me a front desk clerk who transfers me to the escrow officer, and I read her the file number. She pulls the POA, confirms e-signature completed, and agrees to email me the audit log. It arrives with a timestamp from 10:37 p.m. last Thursday, IP address originating from Brandon's home router. That's not speculation. It's in the log. MAC prefix matches the ISP-issued hardware in his zip. I print, sign, and date every page, mark them Exhibit E1 through E5, and slide them into the Property tab of the binder. Same day, 15:04 hours, my grandson drops a throwaway line while fiddling with my remote. Dad's $68,000 SUV came from Pop's army money. That's not chatter. That's an admission. Action chain starts immediately. I note the make, model, VIN, and plate from the driveway. I draft a formal request through counsel to the dealership for the sales contract and e-signature trail. Dealer compliance responds in 48 minutes. DocuSign envelope ID tied to my Gmail, timestamp overlapping the POA signing, funding source split, $18,500 from cashier's check, pawn ticket cash out, and remainder from anticipated refinance proceeds. The signature is my name in block font. The audit trail IP matches the forged POA. I mark it Exhibit V1, staple dealer's cover letter, and run a highlighter over customer signature completed via remote e-sign at 2241. Mistake. Not mine. 2 hours later, I check my bank and see my VA pension deposit missing. No pending, no ACH trace. I call the VA Pension Management Center. give them my file number, and ask for deposit history. They confirm an online change request 3 days ago, routing to an unfamiliar joint checking. I request the account holder list. Brandon as primary, my name added as co-owner via online form with digital signature. I demand a fraud freeze, and they switch the deposit to my credit union effective next pay cycle. I file a written fraud notice, case number VA PMC 2025411, and drop the confirmation PDF in the Government tab. In hindsight, the earlier help with autopay setups wasn't help. It was reconnaissance. Verification sweep. My bank's branch manager confirms Brandon's signature card on the joint checking is in their records. Pharmacy shows a proxy authorization form signed last quarter, again online with my typed name, giving Tessa full prescription control. One call to the clinic and they tell me there's a guardianship evaluation scheduled next week, booked by Tessa. That's the coup they were building toward. Establish incapacity, seize control, liquidate. No speculation, motive, method, and authority, all in documented form. This is the breakpoint. I'm past We'll Fix It Friday and into coordinated fraud with parallel tracks. Property, vehicle, benefits, medical control. The shape of the war is clear. Recover assets, revoke every point of access, make the evidence bulletproof. I don't shout, I don't threaten. I mark the calendar for 3 days out. Thanksgiving dinner. I start assembling the chain of custody binder with a new tab, Casus Belli. Each item gets a QR code to its cloud copy. Each cloud copy gets a checksum to prove it hasn't changed. Tactical assessment. The audit trail didn't just confirm the forgery, it validated the entire pattern from the ledger. Past requests were dry runs. This is the live op. Green light for total counter-offensive. E was hardening the perimeter. I opened the FTC's identity theft portal, filed the report under government benefits fraud and banking account takeover, uploaded scans of the forged POA, the VA deposit reroute confirmation, and the joint account signer card. Case ID IT2025-0901 came back instantly. I printed the confirmation and appended it to the Government tab. Next, I called the police department's financial crimes unit, filed a formal report, and gave them the binder index so far. Report number PD2025-884. I asked for it to be cross-referenced to the theft case for my medals. They linked them in the RMS, so any new recovery ties back to the same file. 3 credit bureaus next: Equifax, Experian, TransUnion. Fraud alerts active for 1 year, plus full security freezes. Each bureau's confirmation email printed, QR-coded, and inserted in the Identity tab. The bureaus also mailed hard copy pins for thawing. I stored those in my safe. Authority revocations went in parallel. My attorney drafted a notarized revocation of power of attorney. We walked it into the county recorder's office at 0912 hours. Recorded instrument number 2025-117338, and got the time-stamped receipt. Every bank got a copy, with a written demand to remove Brandon as an authorized signer. The credit union complied within 24 hours. The National Bank took 3 days, but sent me a letter with "signer removed as of 0841 CST" in the header, Exhibit B-9. The card issuer removed him as AU within the hour, confirmed the reissue of the card with a new PAN, and I logged that letter too. Each revocation confirmation went to cloud storage, with checksum hashes logged in my chain of custody register. Next, the trust architecture. With counsel, we executed an amended and restated living trust, naming me as sole current trustee, removing Brandon entirely, and inserting spendthrift sub-trusts for the grandchildren, with HEMS distribution standards. Successor trustee named, no contest clause embedded. We drafted trustee certificates for every institution holding my accounts. These certificates were hand-delivered to custodians, each signed as received. Each custodian initialed my delivery log. I scanned those pages the same day. Property defense was critical. Counsel prepared an injunction request with an asset recovery complaint, and we filed them with the county court. Filing triggered a lease pendens on my property. Recorded instrument 2025-117412, freezing any refinance or transfer.
I sent the title insurer a notice of claim with the forged POA and audit logs. Escrow was placed on hold pending investigation. Their compliance officer confirmed the hold in writing. That went to the property tab. The vehicle flag took its own chain. Counsel sent a rescission and forgery notice to the dealer, the lender, and the DMV. The lender placed a fraud hold on the SUV's title issuance. DMV flagged the VIN in their database, preventing any transfer. The lender's fraud department initiated a collateral impound. I documented every date and time. Notice sent 8/14, lender response 14/32, DMV response 16/47. All 3 confirmations printed, scanned, QR linked. The evidence stack had to be beyond reproach. I built the chain of custody binder with tabs A through H, VA transcripts, pawn ticket, e-sign logs with IP and MAC data, escrow packet, pharmacy proxy logs, call recordings, bank removal letters, neuro-eval appointment confirmation. Every exhibit was notarized, then scanned, with each QR code pointing to a version-controlled cloud folder. I ran checksum verification after upload to prove no alteration. At the back, I added a map, QR codes arranged by category for instant retrieval in front of any judge or investigator. For intelligence gathering, I set the bait. I sent a neutral holiday agenda email to the entire family, CCing 2 trusted witnesses. Read receipts tracked automatically. In less than 2 hours, Brandon replied all, referencing guardianship paperwork after Thursday. That single phrase was Exhibit H3. I ran his email header through a parser and logged the sending IP, matching it to his home network again. I also staged a controlled call. Using a prepaid cell with a recorded line, legal in my state with one-party consent, I asked Brandon about the refinance schedule in vague terms. He corrected me, said, "No, it's a cash out. We'll pay off the SUV." He linked the 2 crimes himself. I transcribed the call, notarized the transcript, appended the audio file to cloud storage, and added both to the Casus Belli tab. Tactical assessment at this point. Every revocation was acknowledged. Every piece of forged authority was logged with a replacement control, and every channel they could use to move money or assets was blocked. Mini-twist validation. That holiday agenda email proved intent on guardianship within hours, confirming they were still in motion despite freezes. I kept the clock running toward Thanksgiving, less than 72 hours, and the trap was now fully baited. All that remained was letting them walk right into the reveal. Thanksgiving at 1600 hours, the grill cooling and the dining table set. I slid the HDMI into the TV, cued a 4-minute slideshow, and taped the clicker under the laptop with painter's tape so my hand stayed steady when it counted. The process server texted, "Parked 2 houses down" at 16:07. My attorney had the court clerk on standby. The detective held a 16:20 slot. The title company confirmed escrow was frozen for fraud review. The lender's collateral agent had a 2-hour window for impound. I set my timer to 4 minutes, double-checked the QR map in the binder, and nodded at the 2 witnesses I'd invited for one job only: observe and confirm the paperwork. Slide 1. Zelle pattern. 12 months exported. Duplicate recipients highlighted. The ER copay text beside a bar tab screenshot. 5 seconds. Click. Slide 2. The school fundraiser using my name. Donor report. My card's charge flagged disputed. Exhibit A3 stamped. Procedure only. Document. Merchant code. Discrepancy. Click. Slide 3. Forged POA and escrow packet. Audit log with a 2241 timestamp and home IP. The process server stepped in, read names and docket aloud, handed TRO and complaint, and the photographer he'd brought snapped proof of service beside the Thanksgiving spread. Short sentences carry more weight in a room like that. Served. Noted. Slide. They grabbed for papers and denied, "We don't know what this is." So I advanced to slide 4. The dealership contract. DocuSign envelope ID. Record locators. Funding split. $18,500 cashier's check. Remainder from anticipated refinance. The VIN filled the screen. DMV title block and lender impound directive sat side by side. I said, "Title is frozen. Law enforcement notified." The process server photographed proof of service beside the turkey, then stepped aside. 5. VA pension reroute. PMC call notes.
Fraud notice case number, reroute to my credit union, effective next deposit. Dates lined up, change request 3 days before Monday, escrow misfire Monday, dealership signing Thursday night. Slide 6, pharmacy proxy and the clinic's guardianship evaluation they'd scheduled. Brandon stood like it was a town hall, announced an emergency ex parte in the morning. I dialed my attorney on speaker and gave the docket. He confirmed the TRO's effect and asked for the doctor's availability. I put the same-day letter on screen and held up the lab results with the physician's hotline number. Counsel said, "Announcing an ex parte after notice is sanctionable. Stand down." That landed. Tessa started to talk. Counsel said, "Say nothing. You are recorded by their witnesses." Then he clicked off to file a notice to the duty judge, insurance against midnight games. At 16:19, the detective called. Bluetooth carried him across the room. He read cross-linked case numbers, metals theft tied to a pawn ticket, financial crimes tied to the forged POA, vehicle impound coordination from the lender. He required device preservation, named router, laptop, phones, spelled spoliation, and asked for acknowledgement, silence. He repeated, silence again. Acknowledgement noted as refused, he said, citing the code for tampering. He told me the lab would copy devices under warrant and asked me to email the slideshow hash list. I said, "Hash list is in your inbox with the QR map." Tactical aside, the room learned there's a difference between volume and evidence. Evidence wins. Slide 7. Bank confirmations. Authorized user removed. New PAN issued. Signer removed from joint checking. Headers with timestamps read aloud so the sequence became part of the record. Slide 8. Title: Insurer Claim Acknowledgement and Lis Pendens recording numbers. Slide 9. FTC Identity Theft Report and Credit Freeze confirmations. 6 seconds per slide. No commentary. The room wrote its own. They tried one more pivot. "You're embarrassing the family." So I clicked to slide 10. The holiday costs ask, plus the bar tab they routed it to. Timestamps overlapped to the minute. I said, "Last slide." Then the Valor and Vocation Fund. Bank account open. EIN application receipt. Board seats reserved for 3 veterans not named Reyes. Seed capital from recoveries and my monthly $2,650. Recovered money flows here, I said. 2 witnesses scanned the QR and nodded. At 16:31, a flatbed turned the corner with a sheriff's cruiser behind it. The deputy knocked, asked for the registered operator by name, and presented the lender letter and DMV hold notice. I stepped outside with my copy and recorded VIN, odometer, and a photo of the DMV flag. Brandon came out late, half a step into confrontation, until the deputy said, "Fraud hold. Interference adds charges." The agent winched the SUV onto the bed, snapped chain photos, handed me the inventory sheet, and drove off with the cruiser behind him. A neighbor paused with a casserole and watched it happen. She didn't wave. She didn't need to. Inside, the process server returned with 2 additional packets. Notice to cease and desist any guardianship filings pending further order, and email confirmations to their counsel attaching PDFs. I initialed his delivery log. The 4-minute timer hit 3:58. I let it touch 4 and closed the laptop. "All future contact goes through counsel," I said, then read a no-contact directive and slid 2 trespass letters across the table with signature lines already tabbed. They didn't sign. I placed them back in the folder. Boundaries don't need their ink to exist. They need enforcement. I drove to the station at 17:40 with the binder seatbelted, walked into financial crimes at 17:58, and laid the chain of custody binder on the counter, tabs deployed. I recited the timeline. Forged POA Thursday, escrow misfire Monday, pension reroute 3 days prior, vehicle contract sane window, guardianship appointment next week, each with audit trails and IP logs. I handed 2 thumb drives, primary exhibits and raw screen recordings, signed intake receipts, and watched the barcode scan. The officer noted that the POA witness names matched signatures on the vehicle packet and flagged the overlap for the prosecutor. He asked me to email my checksum list. I forwarded and got his auto-reply with the incident number in the subject line. He said, "Will image devices under warrant. Expect a knock." I said,
I requested preservation tonight. At my attorney's office at 1840, we opened the litigation binder like a flight checklist. He filed the service photos into the docket, drafted a notice to the appellate duty judge in case of overnight tactics, and queued subpoenas. ISP subscriber info for the 2241 signature IP. E-signed vendors full envelope history with device fingerprints. Bank audit trail for the online signer edition. Clinic appointment logs and proxy authorization metadata. Title company e-communication thread. We prepared preservation letters to the dealership and lender, instructing them to retain all texts and emails mentioning my name, the VIN, or refi. He printed a spoliation letter and had me sign. A courier dropped it at their door the same night. He e-filed while I called the title company for a letter keeping escrow on indefinite hold pending fraud review. It arrived before we hung up. I printed and QR'd it behind the list pendants page. I called the credit union fraud officer. We locked down my profile so any third-party authorization requests require in-branch notarization. I called the VFW post commander. He agreed to sign a letter attesting to my independence and arranged 2 member affidavits. We scheduled the locksmith for 0800 and requested a patrol watch for the changeover. Before I left the office, the bank manager, on speaker, placed a courtesy call to the joint account's phone number of record. She read the script we'd drafted. Account restricted, signer removed as of 8:41, refer to counsel. She logged the call's start and end times and the response, click, and emailed the call note as a PDF. The title company's compliance officer did the same, sending a formal notice to the refinance email chain. Escrow placed on indefinite hold pending suspected forgery. All communications preserved. My attorney forwarded both to the court with a short note. Defendants on notice, additional ex parte relief unnecessary at this time. Tactical payoff. Consequences delivered by neutral hands carry more weight than any speech. At 20:05, the DA's Victim Services Liaison called to open a file. She asked for restitution amounts to date, so I read off the ledger. Insurance, Delta, $372 per year from the score drop. Utilities, $5,012. Cosmetic clinic, $3,140, reversed but logged. Tax penalty, $2,087. Metals, pending valuation. Vehicle value per contract, and time costs tracked at my hourly rate per state schedule for crime victims. She explained how restitution orders attach to wages, how missed payments trigger garnishment, how interest accrues. I added, all recovered funds route to Valor Invocation, assignment order to follow. She said, noted, and emailed the packet for my signature. I signed electronically, saved the audit trail, and dropped it behind the government tab. Indirect confrontation came from 2 directions. The process server texted what he heard walking away. He can't do this, and push the evaluation, followed by silence as the wrecker turned the corner. The collateral agent called from the lot to confirm the SUV's VIN and condition, and said the family filmed him claiming, mistake, we'll fix it tomorrow. He replied, tomorrow is for your counsel. He laughed once, I didn't. I wrote down times, names, and the yard address and added both to the binder. By 1932, the officer returned my binder with intake receipts taped inside the cover. He asked for the raw impound video and slideshow capture. I handed a second drive. New chain of custody form, hashes recorded, signatures collected. I requested a patrol near my house during the lock change. He added it to the roster and asked for photos of old and new locks. Calendar alerts set. At home, I printed 2 copies of the Valor Invocation Fund announcement. One for my desk, one for the front hall. I finalized the press release draft with 1 line. Recovered funds will seed microgrants for veterans and single parents. Disbursements will be documented. I set the foundation account to accept only ACH from my credit union and court-ordered restitution. I created an email rule. Any subject containing reimbursement or loan from family addresses forwards to counsel and archives untouched. I updated my SOP. No cosigns, no authorized users, annual permissions audit, and exported it as a 1-page PDF for the VFW bulletin board. A 10-minute counter-move sweep. Password reset emails blocked by the authenticator, router logs clean, phone backups complete, camera feeds archived. The binder returned to the safe, the QR map taped under the lid. Access is a plan. Panic is a trap. I chose plan and wrote it down. The reckoning didn't require volume. It required sequence. Serve, freeze, Impound, revoke, preserve, report. Each lever cut an artery feeding their scheme. Each confirmation closed one of my wounds. Mini twist in my favor. The help they used to worm into my accounts left timestamps that now map their operation better than any confession. Audit trails talk. The useless mom-dad insult was noise. Paperwork is signal. I slept with my phone on the nightstand for one reason. If they tried a midnight filing, we'd counter by dawn. They didn't. At 07:55, the locksmith truck rolled up. I photographed the old locks, then the new at 08:23, texted both to counsel, and added them to the Home tab. By then, the operation had already achieved its aim. Consequences delivered, reactions logged, paper filed, devices preserved. Checkmate isn't a roar. It's a stamp, a scan, a signature, then a quiet door closing behind you on the way to the next move. I spent the next morning building the new garrison, people with signatures, stamps, and tools. At 09, I met my attorney with the binder, the QR map, and a quarter-by-quarter calendar. We split the mission into civil recovery and criminal referral, assigned owners, and started pushing paper that moves levers instead of air. Legal ally, chain 1, calendar and control. We created recurring Wednesday 8:30 status calls, opened a secure case portal, and uploaded the binder index with checksum hashes so any exhibit can be verified on demand. He filed an ESI preservation stipulation and served the dealership, lender, title company, bank, clinic, and e-sign vendor. Read receipts landed within an hour. The title company's compliance officer replied, "All threads placed on hold." A live docket tracked filings, dates, return deadlines, and results. Chain 2. Targeted discovery. Subpoenas went out for ISP subscriber records on the 2241 IP, full envelope history and device fingerprints from the e-sign vendor, title company internal emails, dealership finance notes, lender call logs, bank audit trail for the signer edition, clinic appointment logs, and proxy metadata. Each had a stamped return date and went by email and courier, so received appears twice. Chain 3. Guardianship kill switch. We filed a notice of intent to appear and depose any ex parte, attaching the doctor's capacity letter, my service record, and 2 affidavits from the VFW post. A duty judge ordered 3-day notice before any guardianship hearing and barred interim contact changes. The clinic canceled the evaluation within 20 minutes. Assessment. Surprise neutralized, validated. Chain 4. Civil claims and remedies. The amended complaint reads like a checklist: conversion, fraud, civil theft, unjust enrichment, constructive trust, financial exploitation of an elder, declaratory relief, voiding the POA ab initio. Remedies requested: rescission of the vehicle contract, restitution, attorney's fees, permanent injunctions, title correction, quiet title if needed. We recorded the POA revocation again and cross-referenced it to the Liz pendants. Chain 5, restitution architecture. The DA opened a victim file. We supplied a ledger with amounts, dates, and attachments. Insurance delta $372 per year from the score hit. Utilities $5,012. Tax penalty $2,087. Metals pending valuation. Vehicle per contract. Time at the state's victim schedule. My attorney drafted an assignment order routing any restitution directly to the Valor and Vocation Fund and mirrored the civil no contact with a criminal protective order request. Hearings calendared. Chain 6, settlement scaffold. A stipulated judgment template said admitted facts, forged POA, unauthorized VA reroute, vehicle obtained by fraud, and a payment plan with automatic wage garnishment after any missed installment. A confidentiality carve-out preserved my right to talk to law enforcement, regulators, and the Foundation's board. Numbers left blank, leverage saved for when it matters. We left with a cleaner path. Past we didn't know, neutralized by signatures and timestamps. Tactical ally next. I called Ortiz, a retired Signals NCO who hardened small networks with a Pelican case. He parked at 1340, carried in a network tap, and asked for the Wi-Fi password just to change it 5 minutes later. Chain 1. Baseline and capture. We photographed each device, make, model, serial, and cloned my laptop to an encrypted SSD. He exported router configs, DHCP leases, and the event log around 22:41 Thursday, pulled the ARP table, and matched MAC prefixes to the audit log hardware list. Printed, QR'd, filed. Chain 2. Segmentation. He split my network into 3 VLANs: personal, IoT, guest. New SSIDs, WPA3, a 32-character admin passphrase stored only in the hardware password manager. All smart devices moved to IoT with no route to personal. A firewall rule blocked outbound traffic to the eSign vendor from anything except my laptop. Cheap fence, big effect. Chain 3. Authentication hardening. 2 hardware security keys went on bank, credit union, VA, email, and domain registrar. SMS 2FA came off. App-based codes with printed backups went in the safe. He closed 2 old email accounts and documented the closures. A 1-page key custody note, who holds what, where it sits, replacement triggers, went inside the safe door. Chain 4. Monitoring. Syslog forwarding from the router now writes to a Raspberry Pi in the safe and mirrors to a cloud bucket with immutable retention. Alerts fire on admin logins and new MAC addresses. A weekly report, new devices, failed logins, blocked connections, became part of my SOP binder. Week 0 taped behind the router. Chain 5, physical security coordinated. My neighbor Mike swapped deadbolts for smart locks, installed a camera doorbell, added a keypad to the side gate, and placed 2 cameras, one to catch street plates, one for the driveway. Streams right to local SD and cloud. Retained 30 days, with a nightly export at 2 o'clock. My insurer issued a 7% discount. I printed the rider and logged the savings. Chain 6, device hygiene. Ortiz ran an EDR scan on my phone and tablet, removed 6 useless extensions, set email to show full headers, and flagged display name mismatches. A 2-page incident response playbook, if X happens to Y, went under comms in the binder. He left the software probes humming. Third ally wore a VFW cap. At 1800, I walked into the post with 3 copies of my 1-page SOP and asked for signatures and scheduling, not sympathy. The commander read, asked 2 questions, and signed a support letter stating he sees me weekly and has no concern about capacity. Chain 1. Witness affidavits. 2 members, Rhodes and Kim, signed affidavits with dates, meeting frequencies, and observations. We notarized and scanned. Copies to counsel and the DA. Chain 2. Foundation Board. I offered 2 seats to veterans not named Reyes and 1 to a community accountant. Bylaws in plain language. 2 signatures per grant, public quarterly reports, no family recipients, conflict of interest forms mandatory, records kept 7 years. Meeting set for second Tuesdays at 1900 with agendas posted 24 hours ahead. A shared drive holds grants and finance folders and a grant template that pays vendors directly and requires proof of result. Chain 3. First pipeline. The commander flagged 2 cases, an $1,100 eviction gap and a $780 certification exam fee. Files opened, documents requested, decision penciled in 7 days. The board approved the grant template 3-0. Chain 4. CPA audit. I retained a CPA with nonprofit experience to audit 24 months of statements. She pulled by MCC, tagged recoverable categories, unauthorized travel, cash advances, disputes still open, and identified $18,400 likely recoverable. Demand letters to 2 airlines, a resort, an electronics store, and a rideshare cited card member agreements and chargeback windows. Certified mail receipts filed. Chain 5. Metal recovery. The detective emailed mid-meeting. Pawn hold honored. Bring chain of title. The pawn liaison scheduled pickup Friday 10 o'clock with the detective present. An acknowledgement form listed each item and condition and included a clause referring any sale attempts by the original pawner to the DA. The commander agreed to witness. The set would come home with paper on top of it. Chain 6. Public record hygiene. I filed bureau disputes to remove derogatories tied to the business line default, attaching bank documentation, FDCPA correspondence, and the police report. Experian deleted the late within 7 days. Equifax complied after a follow-up. My insurer rolled back the $31 per month. I logged the delta and set a monthly screenshot reminder. Result beats argument. By week's end, the vehicle paper matched the metal. The lender voided the contract ab initio. The dealer accepted the chargeback, and the DMV flagged the VIN permanently. My attorney drafted a stipulation for return of collateral and costs. Towing, storage, admin fees, charged to the party that caused the fraud. Flatbed photos and the impound inventory sat behind it. Wednesday's status call shrank. Discovery responses landed. ISP tied the IP to Brandon's account. The eSign vendor's device fingerprint matched the phone he posts photos from. The bank's signer ad event came from the same IP block. The clinic logs showed Tessa as scheduler. We printed a one-page overlap chart and color-coded it. Pattern becomes proof. Proof becomes orders. Hope arrived as a single line on the docket. Preliminary injunction. Granted. The judge referenced the forged POA evidence and audit trails, barred them from accessing any account or benefit, and warned that violations trigger contempt. My attorney handed me the signed order in the hallway. It did more than any argument. I met Ortiz once more to lock the outer ring. He added credit file locks for address changes and new trade lines. Secret questions became nonsense strings stored only in the password manager. We closed 2 old cloud accounts and documented it in the SOP. He took back the hardware tap and left the probes. The board met Tuesday. We reviewed both applications with complete documents. Votes 3-0 to fund. We wired $1,100 to the property manager and $780 to the testing center and set a 30-day follow-up for proof of result. I logged disbursements, scanned receipts, and posted an anonymized update on the post bulletin board with bank confirmation numbers. Money now lands with receipts and outcomes. Friday at 10, I stood with the detective at Patriot Pawn. The clerk brought out my bronze star and ribbons. We filled the acknowledgement, photographed the handoff, and recorded condition. Minor scuffs, glass scratched, metals intact. The detective forwarded my restitution ledger to the DA with a note linking pawn proceeds to the SUV down payment. Paper loop closed. By the weekend, the inbox was quiet. Notices flowed to counsel. Router logs stayed dull. Insurance premiums lowered. The ledger shifted from defense to doctrine. Counsel for law, Ortiz for wire, the Post for spine, a CPA for the math, and a community fund that turns recovered dollars into receipts for someone else's start. Not closure. Architecture. The point isn't how it feels. The point is, it works. Line by line, document by document, until noise can't compete with the record. By January, the casework settled into cadence and the first proof of a new life went to record. The injunction became permanent at 09/12, barring access to my accounts and locking a 1-year no contact with automatic renewal on violation. I walked the stamped order to the recorder, then filed the quiet title judgment correcting my chain and voiding the forged POA ab initio. Instrument numbers hit the ledger, scans went to the cloud, checksums verified. A process, not a feeling. Restitution moved from theory to deposits. The DA secured an order with my assignment clause routing payments directly to the Valor and Vocation Fund. Payroll deductions began 2 cycles later, $650 on the 15th and on the last day monthly. Interest per statute. Automatic garnishment if 5 days late. I created a restitution flow ledger, mirrored in the funds books. Rules tagged each incoming wire with the case ID, and the clerk's payment notifications became routine entries instead of arguments. Professional victory was operational. The IRS sent our EIN letter at 10:43 on a Tuesday. The state returned our charity registration number in 5 days. A bare-bones site went live with a 1-page intake, 3 questions, document upload, 7-day decision, vendor-only payments, no cash. We opened grant window 001 and funded 2 of the first 5 applications. $1,100 to a property manager to clear an eviction gap and $780 to a testing center. Both posted receipts within 24 hours. I printed the confirmations, filed the PDFs behind the Grants tab, and posted anonymized proof on the post bulletin board. I turned the case into a class. The County Elder Abuse Task Force gave me 20 minutes and a projector. I brought 50 toolkits, identity theft steps, an annotated lease pendants, an FTC template, and a no cosign pledge. I ran the sequence: spot pattern, control pipe, block exits, preserve trail, and illustrated each lever with a QR code. Questions stayed practical. How fast can a lease pendants record? What language forces an e-sign vendor to cough up device fingerprints? I answered with dates, codes, and sample language pulled from my filings. 2 attendees waited afterward and asked for permission to reuse the toolkit. I said yes if they kept the checklists intact. The numbers tilted green. Experian deleted the 30-day late after I attached the police report. Equifax followed. My score climbed 58 points by March. State Mutual rolled back the $31 per month premium and mailed a refund. I logged it. The utility company posted a $67 goodwill credit after I showed overnight spikes ended the week my guests left. I set a monthly reminder to screenshot the score and premiums. Trend lines beat memories. The no recurrence gate runs on its own. Email filters forward any subject with loan, help, emergency, or Friday from family addresses to counsel, and auto-archive with a courtesy reply, per order, contact counsel. My phone whitelists known numbers. Everything else hits voicemail. If this concerns guardianship, property, or money, contact counsel. Trespass letters sit ready with dates and parcel numbers. Patrol watch rotates every 2 weeks. Camera exports run nightly at 2 o'clock and mirror to the cloud. Every piece of it is boring by design. A new person stress-tested the protocol. The contractor who installed my locks returned to quote security film and a ramp for a neighbor. He asked me to put it on my card for a discount and promised Friday. I pointed to the line on my SOP, no cosigns, no third-party charges, and handed him a micro-grant application. He submitted the bid and the lease. The board approved. The fund paid his invoice directly. The ramp went in Saturday. He emailed an invoice stamped paid and a photo of the install. I filed both under community proof. Community multiplied because the record stayed boring. A neighboring county invited me to present. I asked for a projector and a table. I showed the QR map, then said, "Don't call me, call your recorder, your bank, your DA." 2 emails landed the next week. A caregiver recovered $1,944 in card credits after using the MCC trick. A widower revoked a stale POA, froze accounts, and stopped a grandson in jail transfer by demanding an audit log and a call ID capture. I printed both thank yous and filed them under impact notes. Property cleanup finished like a checklist. The judge matched instrument numbers, inspected the forged witness lines, and signed the order correcting title and declaring the document void ab initio. The clerk stamped, the recorder scanned. I filed a homestead declaration the same morning. A patrol car rolled by during the rekey. I photographed old locks, then new at 0823, texted both to counsel, and added them to the Home tab. Not a fortress, just a log that closes doors. On the criminal track, the DA offered a plea with restitution and device surrender for forensic imaging. I didn't argue it. My position had been baked months earlier. Assign restitution to the fund, bar contact, hold jurisdiction on money. The judge adopted the schedule and added a probation term tied to on-time payments. If a deduction misses, the clerk will email me. My job is to keep the ledger current and route the money to grants. Systems beat speeches again. I published my personal security SOP as a 1-page PDF with a plain URL and printed copies for the post board. It reads like an aircraft safety card: no cosigns, authorized user ban, annual permissions audit, notarized revocations on file, freezes as default, all requests in writing. Emergency language earns scrutiny, not sympathy. Grants pay vendors, not individuals. Every action gets a receipt. People ask if it's harsh. I say it's autopilot. Turbulence is not a reason to hand the controls to a passenger. The fund kept pace. The board met at 1900 and reviewed 10 files. 6 were funded with vendor payments. 4 declined with explanations and a reapply path. We posted anonymized outcomes, deposit receipts, license numbers, move-in inspections. We signed an MOU with the community college to cover 2 seats in a night class on budgeting and OPSEC for a year. Deliverables include attendance sheets, pass rates, and exit surveys. The CPA added a quarterly audit. Her first report flagged 2 merchants for refunds and 2 for chargeback windows still open. We pursued both. I keep a small practice. Once a week, I sit with a beneficiary and build a binder. IDs, benefits, banking, health, property, comms, each tab linked by a QR map to a cloud folder with a checksum list. We fill out an FTC report template, trigger fraud alerts, and draft an audit log request letter. So their first call starts with, "I need the device fingerprint and IP for any change to my account." They walk out with a process you can hold. They send me a photo of their binder on a shelf. I file it under proof of follow-through. Debrief arrived the evening the foundation account ticked past 5 figures with nothing but court transfers and 2 donations that used the same memo line. For the next one, I ran a full system check, freezes locked, patrol watch renewed, passwords rotated, camera export verified, SOP date bumped, binder balanced, grant pipeline green, calendar clean, then put the binder back in the safe and closed the door with the same thumb pressure used on footlockers after inspection. Assessment, mission objectives met, assets secured, access revoked, restitution flowing, protocols installed. I don't need a speech, I need the next form to file, the next grant to route, the next neighbor to arm with a checklist. Gratitude is an action item now. People who thank me attach documents and meet deadlines. Value grows when money follows rules. Every no is a yes to a later outcome I can point at. The ledger proves it. Bills paid without drama. Locks changed with photos. IP logs aligned with signatures. Grants yielding receipts. Calls routed to counsel instead of to my living room. The Friday story has no audience here. I taped one more sheet inside the safe. If you're reading this because something went wrong, Step 1, file the report. Step 2, freeze. Step 3, revoke. Step 4, record. Step 5, route the money to value and let the noise burn itself out. Then I asked the only question worth ending on, and the only one a voice can ride past the credits. If your life is a ledger, what will your next entry